What's up, everybody? This is Laban the Greca, and this channel is Autodidact. Thank you for watching this video. I wasn't planning on posting this video probably ever, but today I received a shout out from Oddgog.
Hello. Thank you so much for getting to the end of the video. I'm George. So I've linked one of the Patreon members' work in the description.
And so I thought I should probably post a video. I'd been kind of out of the flow of working on them because I genuinely did not think my channel would ever get any recognition. So this was a slap in the face that I needed to post again. And so yeah, I had this video already made. I made this video about a year ago. It was April of 2024, and I had just gotten my first kiss, and I was really trying to just process it emotionally because I was like an emotional basket case after, because events like this in my life just really weigh heavy on me. So I made the video. It's a 3-part video. The first is a poem, then just me telling the story, and then a sermon. So it's kind of what I was feeling about the situation, what I was thinking about the situation, and what I wanted to learn from it. I did not end up learning any of these lessons because genuinely just a month later, early June of this year, of 2024, I ended up losing my virginity on the beaches of the south of France. And then I ended up having a short relationship with that girl for the rest of the summer. And that summer I was doing a backpacking trip all throughout Europe. And it ended up being the most transformative season of my life. And I've been wanting to tell that story because in this video I was definitely, to me, it was the beginning of me ending up on a downward spiral that I think culminated in that little relationship I had during last summer on my backpacking trip. But then that relationship ending is what opened my eyes to what really matters and helped me get close to God again, and just all these things that I had always known were valuable but I had neglected. I was able to see clearly again what really matters to me and what life is really about for me. And so I want to tell that whole story in a video series, and I wasn't planning on beginning to make it anytime soon because part of me still doesn't even feel like the story's over, or maybe I just haven't even processed it enough. But I'm not saying I'm gonna start making that series now. I'm not saying that each week I'm gonna start completing that series, but just I'm gonna make this the first installment in that series, and whenever I want to make the second installment, I'll make that. And so just over time, I'll just tell that whole story, hopefully. So this is the first installment in what I guess I'm calling my 2024 European backpacking trip that changed my life. So I hope you enjoy. It's a little cringy. Like I said, I never thought I'd post it. I especially don't know why I'm sharing such personal information with the internet, but hey, I wanted to post it today, so that's what I'm doing. I hope you enjoy. An innocent action can often lead to a new and noble experience. Experience, though, can only feed when processed by a sensitive resilience. You're made to know what you most need, but forget this wisdom through reason's interference. Nobody ever believes me, but it actually took me 23 years to get my first kiss. And here's the story, how I got it. Why to even wait to begin with? I think to a degree it boils down to some primary fears and some primary things I put my faith in. I mean, the obvious fears are just a very primal fear of women in some ways. I couldn't help it, but every time I'd be around them, my hands would get clammy, they'd start trembling, my stomach would get tense, my face would get red, and so of course I avoided them. But below that, I mean, there was the emotional fear. I mean, that was a physical fear. There's the emotional fear of, I'm a very sensitive person. If I invest in someone physically, of course I'm going to get an emotional attachment, and that emotional attachment will just make things harder. It'll cloud my judgment. It'll make me, if I'm doing something physical with a person that I don't feel I can have a long-lasting relationship to, then I'll just get close to them emotionally and want to be around them, but I'll know in the back of my mind that that's not a person I should be with. So this disconnect of heart and mind, that's just a source of a lot of pain for me. So of course I avoided ever escalating things physical for that reason. Just the self-knowledge that if I did allow things to escalate physically, I would become attached, and it might not be a person I should be attached to. And then finally, I guess there's like the fear of the spiritual weight of the matter to me, which is the fear of not being the kind of man that could attract the person that I feel I want to be with. The fear of doing things that would put up a wall between me and this future person. I don't know, to me it seems that, I mean, we know that time is relative, and so in some ways you can maximize the scale of time and see that everything has already happened in some way. The future has already happened, everything already exists, and everything that will happen has already happened. And whenever I look at it from that perspective, I see that I'm already married to my wife in some way, that I already have my kids, and so in some ways I feel like I'm just watching the thing unfold, and that to do anything hasty now would be a form of cheating, because if I'm already with her, then I'm cheating on her. I don't know. That's just kind of a me thing. That's a little bit of a weird mental game, but the mental imagery of it works for me, and it's always felt right to me. But yeah, so I mean, and the primary faiths that I guess just led me to this point were the faith that there is a one, there is a such thing as the one. Whenever my reason gets the best of me, I can easily debate this away and lose faith in the fact that there is a such thing as the one. But ultimately, I believe it to be true. I believe there is somebody out there for each of us. And at least whenever I do believe that, it's easier for me to act in a way that is virtuous and in a way that isn't so short-term, gratifying in the short term. It leads me to longer-term decision-making. It has a positive effect on my life. So I adopt that belief for that reason, I guess. The other thing I put my faith in will seem obvious to most, but it's putting my faith in virtue, which for me has roots in the biblical tradition, in the Christian tradition. And I mean, the reason I put my faith in virtue is because I trust the wisdom of the past. This seems to have been the ethical mode of operating that has led to a fruitful culture. And I just have the deep feeling that the morally disciplined and difficult, the more difficult and morally disciplined a path, the more proper it is, the more fruitful it will be, the more abundant it will be. I really just do put my faith in that taking the more difficult and disciplined moral path will always lead to more fruit. So, let's not delay any further. What's the story of how I got my first kiss? And why would it even matter? I mean, I guess it matters to me because I'm trying to process it emotionally right now, and I have a desire to share it just because I think it will, I don't know, I'm thinking of it as a form of like emotional transmutation. If I can just process these emotions, get them out there, maybe I could help somebody else. I don't know. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, ultimately I think the process of how I even got to this place is I kind of lost my faith that there was a one, that there was a special person for me. And then simultaneously at this time, my desires for a romantic partner were definitely increasing. I think if you just observe nature, you'll see that fruits that need to come into being will make themselves known. Like a tree knows when to produce the fruit. A pregnant woman knows when she needs to push. And in the same way, I felt it in my whole being that like now's the time to look for a romantic partner. I guess I'm coming of age of sorts, and my nature just knew. So I kind of was losing faith that there was even the such thing as the perfect one for me, and I was just feeling these strong desires, and so with that, like because of this, I guess I was starting to experiment with different modes of being. You know, I was putting on a different persona. I became much more social. The motivation to find a woman led me to become a much more social person, which I don't regret. It's been fun. I've made a lot of friends, but it's pushed me to, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I've become much more loose, and things that I wouldn't even have considered doing before, I started doing to a degree, like in a social setting. I would drink a little bit, which before would have seemed absurd to me. I would smoke a cigarette. Just trying to have fun, experimenting with the ways of the world a bit, all with the hope of trying to get my first kiss, or more importantly, try to find the one. But like I said, I'd kind of even lost faith in this concept to a degree. And but either way, long story short, because of these strong desires to find a romantic partner, I kept pushing myself out of my comfort zone, kept doing things that I wouldn't have normally done. I kept going to parties, kept having a good time. And then this past Friday, I go to like an electronic rave, electronic dance music type stuff, and I'm dancing, having a great time. Really just having a great time with my friends, dancing a lot. Second I get there, I start talking to beautiful women, interesting people, just socializing. And then one of my other friends comes, and he brings with him a whole nother group of friends. Some people I've never even met before, but they're related to me through him, I guess. And in that group, there's just this beautiful girl, really beautiful. So I see her, I think she's beautiful. I start flirting with her. She's reciprocating. And we go back to the dance floor. And we start dancing together. And before you know it, she's grinding on me, which I've never experienced before. And I must admit, it was like the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I enjoyed it so much. And then I was a little nervous at first, so I wasn't really doing anything back. I just kept dancing. And then before you know it, I guess just like instinct took over, and then I'm like touching her, and it's just getting more and more pleasurable by the moment. And I'm having the greatest time. Well, then we go outside we get sweaty, we're tired, so we go outside. Then she starts laying in the grass, so I lay in the grass next to her. And then before you know it, we're kissing. I was a little nervous at first, like I said. I've never done it before. I was timid. I was even like, oh man, I don't know what to do. Silly stuff like that. Embarrassing things that people would probably say never to do. And then, but I just started like pecking her. And then after a few pecks, we start making out. And it was incredible. I mean, really. And then things get they're escalating quickly. They get a little frisky. And then some of our friends come and try to break us up. And we both wanted to keep going. But I knew it wouldn't lead anywhere that I genuinely wanted it to lead. So I accept their advice. We get up, we break it off. And then the rest of the night, I was kind of trying to position myself back into a place where we could do that again, do it over and over. It was like the funnest thing ever. I wanted it to just be able to do that for the rest of my life in some ways. But no, I mean, after that, I guess I was kind of clear that I wasn't really comfortable taking things any further. And we had another friend who personally I think is completely under her league, but he's willing to do what she wanted, and they work together. And basically, the rest of the night, she spends time with him, and she ends up going home with him that night. And yeah, it just became clear to me that, like, I knew from the beginning of the night that this girl was not the one for me. All of my friends knew she wasn't the one for me either. They were like, Laban, you should probably steer clear. And I knew for a fact that I'd get emotionally attached to a person that I shouldn't be emotionally attached to, and that it would create this mental emotional disconnect. But I just did what I wanted to do, and I don't regret it at all. I really don't. But even still, now it's suffering the consequences. It's like, she went home with this other dude, and now I'm feeling terrible about it. I'm caring for a person that I shouldn't necessarily care about, and it hurts your heart, really. And so I didn't want to have to go through this, but then I was. And then ultimately it's just because, I'm a sensitive person. But yeah, just the pain, it was like painful to know that, like, what was special to me was not special to the other person. And it was just another night for them. And yeah, I guess I just realized in this moment that, like, obviously I didn't regret the experience. It was fun. It was a good time. But I do want to continue to save it for somebody who would also be special to you, because it hurts whenever you invest in somebody who doesn't care for you back in a way. And I know I'm just being overly sensitive, overly dramatic, but to me, I just feel like your emotional response to something is typically accurate. If you're feeling a certain way, you're feeling that way for a reason, and you should follow that. I think it's typically leading you to the healthiest mode of being. If you eat junk food, your stomach's gonna hurt. Then you could take the path of you'll just continue to eat the junk food. Eventually, you'll stop getting the stomach aches, and you've desensitized yourself. But you could start eating healthier, and you'll start feeling better. And that's kind of how I try to approach everything. So all of my friends were like, Laban, you're just being too dramatic. Just get over it. This is normal. People sleep around with everybody. It really doesn't mean anything. It's just no strings attached. Everybody's just getting to enjoy themselves. And for me, it didn't feel true. And I don't believe it is true. And I could be wrong. But yeah, it's just, I don't want to desensitize myself. I don't want to start accepting that this is just the way things are. I want to try to preserve my innocence in a way, and trust my guiding light, trust my emotions that are leading me to the fact that, yes, the pleasure was amazing, but it felt like a game that gets better with time, and that it needs to be a repeated game. It needs to be a game that you play over and over again with the same person. I don't know why. That's just what it felt like to me. It felt like I was missing the puzzle piece. Whenever I was kissing her, it felt like I just couldn't give all of myself to it because I knew she wasn't the one, And I don't feel like I feel like at its ideal form of pleasure, if we were to maximize the pleasure of this sort of thing, you would be able to give yourself fully to it. You would be able to say, this is who I want to do this with forever. I don't know. Hope that makes sense. But I just want to find the person I want to play that game with, really. And I don't want to do it with anybody. I want to keep it special. I want to stay sensitive to the amount of pleasure that I felt in that moment. I don't want it to become just another thing, and that I need to escalate it and do it with new people just to keep the pleasure intact. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't regret anything. I would do it again. But I just want to learn my lesson. The lesson that I knew probably before I even did it, which is that it's really only going to be special with somebody who is special. and that the physical is so nice and the physical is so fun, but what really ultimately holds things together and will sustain you and fulfill you and make you whole in the long run is something much more spiritual and emotional and deep. Be wise, dear children, be wise. Trust the proper order of things. Trust your emotions. And above all, trust virtue. Trust that virtue will lead you exactly where you want and need to be. The children of the world do not heed wisdom or virtue. They heed their fleeting desire only. They commit actions, poor actions, that make them feel worse, and invest in people who continually abuse their souls, making them feel worse yet again. They convince themselves that their emotional response to a wrong action is what's incorrect. They convince themselves that the wrong action was acceptable, that the wrong action was normal. If the action is good and fine, then it is their emotional response to it that is faulty. So in this way, they desensitize themselves. They put a disconnect between themselves and their emotions. They are no longer attuned. Sensitivity can be one's prime virtue. It can be one's guiding force, if left uncorrupted by faulty reasoning. Sensitivity leads you to warmth when you're cold. Sensitivity leads you to the well when you're thirsty. At its highest function, sensitivity can lead all to virtue if they just heed its guidance. Benjamin Franklin once so wisely espoused that vicious actions are not hurtful because they are forbidden, but are forbidden because they are hurtful, man's nature being considered. This seems to be supremely true. Our natures and our character are hurt by vice, and that is why it is considered vicious. But so too many people, seeing vice as the easier path, convince themselves that vice is not harmful, but an arbitrary, subjective dictate. So they commit the vice and feel its painful effect. Hating the effect, they desensitize themselves, making themselves less attuned, which leads to a positive feedback loop of self-destruction. Heed these words, young children. Heed the words of wisdom. Trust your nature and do all that you can to preserve its sensitivity to things. Always stay open to your truest feeling and trust its guidance. In order to trust yourself, though, you must never trust yourself. Test these emotions. Test them by asking, does this feeling lead me closer to virtue or vice? With this in mind, go forth and live abundantly. I hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoy my work, please subscribe. Once again, go watch Oddgog's channel and subscribe to him. Thank you for the shout out, Oddgog. And yeah, if you really like my work, I'm still building it, but please check out my website. That's where a lot of my creative vision is going to take place. I'm really trying to build an amazing website that will help other people continue their self-education, and I want to just decentralize education on that website. So if you like this video, I hope to keep posting more, and please encourage me on this journey by just liking and subscribing. Thank you so much. This is Autodidact. I'll see you in the next one.